Good afternoon and welcome to London. We are about to see the first ever coronation broadcast live into Australia, and today you have this front row seat to history. I'm Michael Usher, and with me our royal expert BBC presenter Angela Rippon. Angela, wonderful to have you here, to be with you again, to talk about this incredible day.
It is my pleasure, and as you say, incredible. And we're not just witnessing history, of course, we are part of history, because this is the first time that any coronation will have been broadcast live around the world. Everybody will get a chance to see exactly what happens, this wonderful display of pomp and ceremony.
It is, and as we were walking into our location here at Buckingham Palace in the early hours of the day here, we could see the thousands of people streaming in to the Mall just out of our shot here now, getting ready for that prime seat to see the King. And
also at other spots around London where they've got massive screens up so that people can actually watch everything as it happens live. In Hyde Park, thousands of people are there already. Yeah,
it's going to be magic, and we'll have every detail, every second, every frame of this wonderful day covered for you. And you can see the live shots around London as the city gets ready early in the morning here. So here's what we're going to see in the coming hours. Let's run through it. The King will soon arrive behind us here at Buckingham Palace to meet staff and have final preparations for his coronation. We understand he'll spend about 40 minutes inside. Now, we know he doesn't live there, but it is the main working residence. So they're going to make a very short drive, about a kilometre or so, from his actual home, which is St James's Palace, right through the front gates and inside to the palace. That is going to happen in about an hour and a half. Then it all gets underway. The King's procession begins. They'll board the Diamond Jubilee State Coach, made in Australia, pulled by 6 grand Windsor grey horses, and they'll be accompanied by the Household Cavalry. Then it begins. Charles and Camilla will journey down the Mall, right out of the palace there. They're going to pass under Admiralty Arch, down Parliament Street, past the offices of government departments, past Westminster Palace and the Houses of Parliament there just to the left, and then into Westminster Abbey. That 2-kilometre journey will take about 23 minutes. And have a look inside. These incredible pictures from Westminster Abbey. The scene is well and truly set. The service will take 2 hours, an hour shorter than his mother's coronation, and the crowning moment, of course, will be about an hour into the service, with gun salutes outside, and Charles vowing to serve the kingdom and its people. At the end, the King and Queen will board that horse-drawn gold state coach. This was the rehearsal, pulled by 8 Windsor grey horses. Marching bands and 4,000 troops will escort the newly crowned King and Queen back to Buckingham Palace, passing their people who may well have joined in and sworn allegiance to His Majesty during the service. Then, this is going to be the big moment. We're going to see the first balcony wave from Charles as King and the traditional fly past, and that is going to last about 6 minutes. It is going to be a show. We are live from Buckingham Palace. We're also at Westminster Abbey, right along the Mall. We have everything covered. And during the service, Angela and I will involve the coverage from our broadcast partners, the BBC and ITM. So new pictures just in as well. Let's show you these. The troops have really been streaming into the city. These are some of them arriving at the Waterloo train station, coming in by rail. About 4,000 of them there. It's going to swell to about 7,000 with the overall procession. And in the mix there, Australians preparing to join the King's procession. And as I said, we're going to catch it every moment live. So, what are we going to witness today? Few people are old enough to remember any detail from the Queen Elizabeth's coronation. In fact, the King himself was just 4 years old. And we saw that, Angela, didn't we, from that wonderful archive vision back there of Charles as a young 4-year-old at the balcony inside the Abbey.
Yes.
Observing with the Queen Mother, his grandmother, and also at the balcony where he did his first wave. And 70 years later, we're going to see him just behind here with the working members of the royal family.
And when he was in the Abbey, of course, we could just see him sort of looking over the top, and his grandmother, the Queen Mother, sort of just touching him occasionally, just probably telling him what was happening, so that whether he remembered it or not, he would have an idea of what was likely to happen to him whenever he was in the position of being crowned king.
So many people, of course, do remember the coronation. What very early childhood for you? What were your memories then of the Queen?
My memories of the Queen are fairly vague, mainly because for the coronation I was actually in hospital having my appendix out. But it was wonderful because in those days the nurses here in Britain wore little white caps here and cloaks. And what they did in the children's ward, the nurses painted crowns on the top of the little white caps and gave us their cloaks to wear. And those of us that were the walking wounded after our operations were parading up and down the wards, pretending that we were kings and queens. So I wasn't involved in the street parties or any of that. But my parents, I know, were among the thousands who at that time were the first to get a television so that they could actually watch in black and white what was happening.
Incredible, wasn't it? There was just a cheer before, and I don't know if you see that van before. I thought maybe we're going to see a royal. In fact, it was the bloke transporting the portaloos to another location. So,
Essential.
Such is the atmosphere here that everything gets a cheer on this morning.
An essential part of the day.
But doesn't that look magnificent right now, Angela?
It does, but it always, I mean, the Mall is, I think, where people always congregate in their thousands. You've not just got down there all the flags of the members of the Commonwealth. You've got an opportunity for people to see the majority of the procession as it goes past. And as you will know, because you've been covering it all this week, thousands of them have been camped out there literally since Monday and Tuesday evening.
Now, I don't want to jinx it, but we're just seeing that beautiful shot, the gold of the Victoria Monument shining in the sun. And it's here now. It's sunny for now. Yesterday it was 4 seasons plus in one day. Yep, I went. It's good for now. That's what we care about. All right, now, King Charles, as we know, has been very patient to get to this day, the longest monarch in waiting in British royal history. Now, when asked what sort of king he'll be, Charles' sister Anne joked that we've had long enough to meet him already and to learn what we're about to get. He had the best of teachers, paying attention ever since he was little. But today, all cameras will be focused tightly on him, as the royal intern is crowned king.
September 9 last year. King Charles, barely 24 hours into his reign, carrying out his duty in the face of enormous grief.
Devastating. He lost his mother, recently lost his father. I think everyone could see etched on his face the devastation that he faced was huge.
As he confronted the reality of a job he'd waited a lifetime for. Charles Philip Arthur George, born second in line to the throne to the then Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh in 1948.
Well, Charles, through no fault of the Queen, was pretty much raised by nannies, Mrs. Lightbody being one of them. Key figures in his upbringing would have been Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, who was widowed, in her 50s, and really did love to spoil her grandson.
Within 4 years, though, he was the heir apparent, watching on with his grandmother as his mother was crowned queen. His father, Prince Philip, considered firm but fair. Charles found a guiding light in Lord Louis Mountbatten, his Uncle Dickie. There was the sojourn to Australia in 1966, time at Geelong Grammar's Timbertop campus. A chance to break free, just enough.
When he got to Australia, I think he found fun, frivolity, little light teasing and that lovely larrikin wit of Aussies, which made him feel relaxed and at home. And he does love it when I tease him.
But the serious side of the life Charles was born to has always loomed large. In 1969, at Carnarvon Castle in Wales,
I, Charles, Prince of Wales, do become your liege man of life and limb.
his investiture as Prince of Wales with a coronet, not a crown. A ceremony not constitutionally required, but celebrated nonetheless. Charles was barely into his 20s, a dashing, polo-loving prince, when he met Camilla Shand.
I think there's no doubt that Charles is quite a young, naive guy. Fell in love head over heels with Camilla. She may not have been his first lover, but she was certainly one of the first lovers. And he was besotted with her. And she was a little bit older than him. But unfortunately for him, she wasn't really in those days seen as potential royal bride.
While he served in the Royal Air Force and Royal Navy, she married another man, Andrew Parker Bowles. By his 30s, Charles needed a bride, a future queen. He married Lady Diana Spencer. They'd met barely a dozen times.
He and Camilla did decide that once he got engaged to Diana, they wouldn't see each other at all. And they did this for about 8 years.
2 princes were born, William in 1982, Harry 2 years later.
I think they was quite happy when you see those pictures of him in Australia and New Zealand. I think they were quite happy. I think they found a happiness. They found a way to be happy. But was she his soulmate? No, she wasn't. He could never let Camilla go.
The marriage fell apart.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes. Until it became irretrievably broken down.
Diana's life ending in tragedy.
Good evening. Diana, Princess of Wales, is dead.
Camilla realised that she had to keep her distance. She was on the phone a lot to Charles because, you know, he having to deal with a hell of a lot. You know, he's a single dad overnight and 2 young guys that were just devastated beyond belief, and a lot of that mental torture and trauma has come out since, clearly with Harry, and also it did with William, but clearly with Harry. A difficult job.
Now with Camilla by his side, Charles has kept up an incredible workload.
When you meet Charles, he has this ability to make you feel as though you're the most interesting person he's met all day. You know, he has an incredible ability to put people at their ease, and so does Camilla. You know, even those people who should come with a stamp on their forehead saying may cause drowsiness, he and she will find something interesting in them, and they'll focus on them. So they're not snobs.
For decades, he's supported young people through his Prince's Trust charity. In his words, been banging on about the environment too.
We could no longer go on like this, as if there was no tomorrow and no ultimate reckoning for our abuse of nature.
Indulging his love of nature and conservation, his home at Highgrove teeming with life, as Charles has patiently, loyally served, waiting for his time.
I would say Charles is one of the best prepared monarchs ever. He served a great apprenticeship, but there's nothing like being in the top job to make you realise what it's all about. Our Queen was in the top job all that time, 70 years. Now it's up to the King to show what he's worth.
Really happy to bring in our Europe Bureau Chief along with Angela and myself, Hugh Whitfield. Now, Hugh, hello to you.
Michael, Angela, good morning.
Yeah, no, did the wonderful piece there on the background of Charles. I just wonder, when his mother died, obviously she had that role, she was the people's queen, it's also his mum. Was there sadness with Charles?
Look, I think there was sadness and also a realisation that his life was going to be changed that day. When he woke up on that day back in September last year, he didn't know what was going to happen. He was at Dumfries House. Around mid-morning, he received the call, was flown over in the helicopter to Balmoral, just across the other side of Edinburgh from Dumfries. And when he arrived, Princess Anne was by their mother's bedside. He spent some time with the Queen, but then knowing that his life was going to change forever, he actually went back to Burkle, which is his residence just down the road from Balmoral, and he went mushroom picking, which
Really?
sounds really strange. But his friends say that he did that because he needed a moment to be at one with the natural world that he has obviously championed for so long, that he finds that private peace in. And it gave him no doubt a chance to reflect on the fact that he knew that that day his life was going to change forever. The job that he knew was one day going to be his was going to be his that day.
But it was important for him to have that solace, that peace, I think, because he knew, as indeed happened, that once it became public knowledge, he was then the centre of attention. He was then the person who had to go out and meet the public. As you say, his life was changing. I think anybody would want those few moments of reflection on their own, just to have their own way of mourning the loss of his mother, but thinking about what was going to happen to him in the future.
Whatever privacy or whatever, I guess, it disappeared in those hours that came afterwards. And no doubt Scotland will remain a special place for the Prince, for King Charles, as he is now, and the Queen, as she will be in the coming hours.
So today's ceremony then, Hugh, down to the detail, we're led to believe that Charles is heavily involved. Obviously, we were sitting in these same positions late last year talking about the precision of which the funeral of his mother was planned, but the coronation will very much have his stamp on it today and reflect his personal attitudes.
Absolutely, and compared to the Queen, or the late Queen, the stories will tell you that Prince Philip at the time and the Queen had influence, but ultimately it was up to the aristocrats and the grey suits in the palace to make most of the decisions. The thing about Charles is he's had 70 years to consider how he would like his coronation to be perceived by the public and reflective of a modern Britain. And particularly in the last couple of years, he knows that this is a United Kingdom that has changed dramatically, particularly in the last 10 years. It is a Commonwealth that has changed. There are nations that are leaving his realms, and so he knows that he needs to change and adapt, as coronations have for 1,000 years. No coronation is the same as the previous one. He is simply moving this monarchy forward as previous monarchs have.
Hugh, as we're talking to, and Angela also, we're seeing these wonderful pictures that we're just going to continue broadcasting live from all corners of London as all of the various parts of the procession get into place, and putting on an early show, a pre-show if you like, through the streets of London. Quite magnificent to watch. And where we're sitting here now too, there's been some beautiful rehearsals of part of the procession band as well. That no doubt we'll see soon throw past Buckingham Palace. One small point before we take a break. There will be a moment during the coronation which I'm interested in that's caused some conversation here, and that's the pledging of allegiance, this one moment where the public in fact are invited to say God save the King. Hugh, we're led to believe that that's not necessarily something that Charles wants.
No, well, it's come from Lambeth Palace, the Archbishop of Canterbury, who is a fairly progressive Anglican Archbishop, I would suggest, Angela, and it is his idea to open up this service to the people. Now, it is the one part of this service that has probably received negative feedback, particularly in the tabloids and in some parts of the media. I think in part because the idea of pledging allegiance to the crown and to a man and his heirs is seen as a little bit archaic and not necessarily in keeping with the modern monarchy that Charles is trying to promote. We're definitely going to hear people say it in the Abbey, probably along the Mall as well. I'm not sure, though, across the rest of the country, and it could be the one bone of contention in the years going forward as to whether or not it's going to be repeated.
Is it allegiance to, or is it support of? Because, of course, already a lot of people pledge their allegiance because they're members of the armed forces, the Scouts. All sorts of people already do that when they join official organisations. I wondered whether or not the Archbishop got it slightly wrong, and that actually what he wants to hear is support of the King. You know, God save the King, we support you.
If the words were slightly different, it could have been a very big unifying moment for a country that has been through a lot over the last couple of years, and it's just a little bit off kilter.
It is.
Well, they're certainly unifying now, Hugh and Angela. Look at these shots as we're taking them live of people lining the streets, all points of London, all the different landmarks, and as we can see now, those procession marches are heading into the city. This operation has been a dream of the King for decades and has been 6 months in the making for the officials. That's 1 month of planning per hour for the coronation and the parades that we're all about to witness. 10,000 support troops will be involved in the pomp and ceremony. 39 countries are going to be represented, including Australia, of course. And you're about to witness history in the making. Stay with us as we witness a king become crowned, live here on 7.
Monday, May 15.
Excuse you.
What's this? It looks like a hemorrhoid.
Oh my God.
You know.
Yeah!
Stephen, it was 42 kilometres an hour. Relax.
It's epic. This instantly brings out everyone's inner child.
All new Blow Up starts Monday, May 15 on 7 and 7 Plus.
Made for more. More what, exactly?
More NBN speed for more Australians.
More speed!
streaming.
More working from home.
And more gaming.
More than you can imagine.
Cool.
We're delivering more NBN speed to more Australians.
It's not rocket science. You pick up to 10 numbers, Keno Go picks 20, and the more you match, the more you could win. Up to 20 million bucks every 3 minutes.
Keno Go. You could win up to $20 million every 3 minutes. Download the app now.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
There are many places to lose your glasses, but the best place is Medonic Laser Clinic. Medonic Laser Clinic, the best place to lose your glasses.
Escape to your favourite mysteries on BritBox.
I'm going to work out who killed him.
Do you ever worry that you might be dabbling in forces that you shouldn't be dabbling in? Why, of course.
The largest streaming collection of British crime drama.
I know you like a good murder.
Including new exclusives like Father Brown. That is interesting. And Sister Boniface mysteries.
Thought I might stay and watch the fun.
No contract, no ads, no bother. Watch with a free trial at BritBox.com.
They say the days are long, but the years are short, ponders Prisha.
Date is really onto something.
She sometimes misses the freedom before kiddos. The spontaneous road trips with her hubby are all on pause.
They are so on pause.
The upside, she has everyday insurance from Woolworths. Drive less, pay less cover, tailored to how far she drives these days.
Not far.
And she gets 10% off a Woolworths shop every month.
It's the small victories, people.
Make your insurance count. Make every day count.
At Amplifon, we believe in personalisation.
Hi, Gary.
If I'm watching TV, I'll miss my phone or the doorbell ring.
I can set you up so you can receive calls right into your hearing aid. You can even connect them to a TV and doorbell with Bluetooth.
Now I've heard everything. I'll get it.
Now I've heard everything.
Tell us about your lifestyle and we'll customise a solution to meet your needs. Book a free hearing check today. Call 13MyEars today.
Lovely to have your company this afternoon. Thanks for joining our coverage. Beautiful shot of Big Ben there, fully restored, shining in the morning light here. There's a beautiful burst of sunshine right now, and we're counting down to the coronation of King Charles III. He will depart Buckingham Palace, travel through a very crowded mall before being crowned inside Westminster Abbey. Now, this was the 2nd of June, 1953. Charles's mother, Queen Elizabeth II, was crowned. The coronation also inside Westminster Abbey. In fact, every coronation since the year 1066 has been held here. Charles will be the 40th sovereign to receive his crown inside. Let's hope he's a little more interested in his own coronation. Wonderful archive pictures here. Charles was just 4 years old at his mother's crowning. Here he is between his grandmother, Elizabeth the Queen, grandmother and his aunt, Prince Margaret, a very young Prince Margaret there. Fist on his cheek, wondering what is going on, but a witness to history as he is going to be involved in today. Let's go now right outside Westminster Abbey. Victoria Arbiter, David Koshy are there, who are going to have a wonderful seat there to see when that the coaches arrive and then the Golden State coach departs. Quite amazing where you are.
It is just wonderful, Musher. This is the front door, of course, behind us. Doors are open for everybody else. All of the guests, they're coming in from the side door here, so they opened about 5 or 6 minutes ago. Victoria, like Charles has been king for a couple of months now, since his mum died. Put the coronation in context for us. What does it really mean?
I'm so glad you asked, Koshi, because of course a lot of people are looking at the dazzling pomp and pageantry, which of course is magnificent, but the cultural significance goes way beyond that. Really, today is a symbolic reminder of the continuity upon which the foundation of the monarchy is built. So the ancient parts of the ceremony, the rituals, the regalia, all of that has remained largely unchanged.
So he hasn't changed it for this coronation?
There are elements that will be different in terms of we're going to see female members of the clergy included, multi-faith leaders, but the crux of it, the oath, the anointing, has remained largely unchanged since King Edgar was crowned at Bath in 973. Wow. So it gives you sort of an idea of the history that we are going to see unfold today. And I thought it was quite interesting. In 2018, the Queen took part in a documentary in which she was reflecting on her own coronation. She was talking us through the crown and how important the crown is. She says they're really very important things, but she said that the coronation is really the moment where the sovereign's life truly begins. This is where the official role of the sovereign begins. So, yes, of course, he did become king the moment his mother passed away, but this is where we see him step into the role with all the symbolism, the ritual and the regalia.
OK, so the doors are open. Everybody has to be seated by 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Then the dignitaries, the Prime Ministers, the Governors-General come in about 6:30. So if you're watching at home, it's very tightly choreographed of when everyone's got to come in. So everyone's seated by 6, everyone has an allocated space, and they're there for the duration.
They are, and there's no getting up. So once you're in your seat, and that's partly because of security, but that's partly because they're moving around a huge number of people. You see with the order of arrivals, you get a real sense of the hierarchy, because of course the more important you are, you get to come in a little bit later. Right. But they have to have everyone in place to make sure that once the procession arrives, there's no room for error and the coronation can begin. And I thought it was another rather lovely tale that the Queen's Maids of Honour shared, that at the Queen's coronation, when she arrived, she turned to her 6 maids of honour, who were all drawn from aristocratic families, and she said, "Ready, girls?" And they nodded their assent. But the problem was the carpet along the aisle had been laid with the pile running the wrong way, so her dress got stuck. And the Archbishop of Canterbury had to give her a shove to get her on her way. So hopefully we won't have any problems like that today.
They're all humans, aren't
they? That's right.
Now, where does Harry come in with this? Does he come in the side door? Does he come in with the rest of the family? Is he part of the procession to get here?
This is where we're going to see some major changes, because of course if Harry and Meghan had remained with the working royal family, he would be front and centre with his brother today, but he will not be. He is going to arrive with the rest of the royal family. As we understand it, he won't be in military uniform, and a couple of the British newspapers were reporting last night that he's going to be seated in the 3rd row. There has been no official confirmation on that, but so that was surprising.
Is that a good row? Put it in context for us.
If you're Prince Harry and your father is being crowned king, no, it's not a great role. I mean, certainly it's a good spot in terms of being able to see, and you're seated with the rest of the family, but he's the son of the reigning king.
So he should be in the front?
He should be in the front row.
OK, because at the funeral, he was a couple of rows back as well. So he's going to stay there.
You know, when you step away from royal duties and you're no longer a working member of the royal family, the perks that go with it, they leave with it.
OK. When's the first time we'll see, say, Kate and Wills? Are they part of the procession from Buckingham Palace to here?
No, so it'll just be the King and the Queen Consort. They're coming in the Diamond Jubilee State Coach, which was built in Australia.
An Aussie coach.
A lovely nod to Australia there with the first part of the procession. But William and Kate and the children are going to be part of the procession that goes down the aisle of Westminster Abbey. So they will be arriving just before the King and Queen Consort.
OK, so it is a bit like a wedding, isn't it? Sort of they stay at the back and await the attendants as they go forward down the aisle.
That's right, just waiting until the man of the hour arrives.
Yep. So the procession here from Buckingham Palace is very much a cut-down version of the procession that will go back to Buckingham Palace. That's going to be a really big spectacle, isn't it?
It really is. Well, so historically, since the coronation of William IV, everyone used the Gold State coach to come to the Abbey. That is not going to happen. They're coming in the Diamond Jubilee coach, which is actually much more comfortable because it's properly suspended, it's got electric windows, air conditioning, a bit of heating.
Oh, it's got Australian ingenuity behind it.
It does. We've got Australia
built to perfection.
Australia to thank for that. But because the Gold State coach is actually known for being incredibly uncomfortable. It's just strung on leather straps. William IV, he was a keen naval officer, and he said it was like being tossed in the high seas, and Queen Victoria complained about its distressing oscillation. And the Queen, the late Queen, said it was horrible. She said her ride to and from the Abbey was horrible, just because it's so uncomfortable. So they'll be arriving in comfort and then sucking it up for the way back.
Okay, all right. But it is spectacular, isn't it? Look, a bit earlier we saw that photo of Charles during his mum's coronation looking pretty bored. Everyone will be looking at George and the kids, Kate and Will's kids. What role are they going to play?
Interestingly, George has a formal role. He's only 9 years old. He turns 10 in July. But he is going to be performing one of the Page of Honour roles.
What do they do?
So they are going to be there to carry the robes, the train of the robes along the aisle.
Okay.
They'll have a few other little bits and pieces to do. But really quite extraordinary to think that Prince George is going to be taking an active role in his father's coronation. One day, hoping time and genetics are kind, he will experience his father's coronation and then his own coronation many years from now. And again, if time is kind, he could carry the monarchy over into the 22nd century as the first monarch of the 22nd century. So a very big day for him, and at the age of 9, one that he will remember many years from now.
Absolutely. As we can see there, the doors are about to be opened at Westminster Abbey. Big Ben has sounded 7:30 a.m. And, of course, Australia's special invited guests are all meeting on the lawn outside the side gate here to come in.
Yes, they'll be meeting there. There's a delegation of, I think, 13, 14 Australians that have been selected, all from different backgrounds. And then Sam Kerr, the Matildas footballer, she is going to be the flag bearer, which
now,
is
she comes in later with the
Yes.
heads of state, doesn't she?
That's right. So what will happen, the faith leaders and representatives of different faiths will go into the Abbey first of all, and then the procession with the flag bearers will start. And
and every country has a flag bearer. It's a bit like the
For the
Olympics
realms.
opening ceremony,
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
Or the Commonwealth ones go in.
For the realms. And then right behind Sam will be the Australian Prime Minister and the Governor-General.
Oh, okay. And the state governors-generals go in a bit earlier as well.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, it's all happening here. Doors are opening at Westminster Abbey, and there is a lot ahead in the next couple of hours. And welcome to viewers from Perth. It's great to have your company for the coronation pre-game show, I suppose it is at the moment. And Dor, you've joined us just at perfect timing as the doors are opening here at Westminster Abbey, and everyone can now start to file in. All of the guests must be seated by 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
They'll be sitting there a long time, Koshi.
They will be. It'll be quite okay. That would play on my mind, I reckon. The practicalities of sitting there for a long time, and I'm sure they planned out their hydration program beforehand to make sure they can last. Masha, it's all happening here at Westminster Abbey. A lot to come.
As you say, Koshi, the pre-game show, we're not far from the bounce or the whistle. It'll come up a little later when we actually get to the coronation. Thank you guys for that. We'll come back to you a fair bit. Sarah Greenoch, now our correspondent, is on the mail. Let's say hello to her. Sarah, g'day there. Some people have been camped there for 6 days, haven't they?
Michael, I think they probably would have been planning their hydration program as well today. In some places, the crowd is about 20 deep. We are lucky enough to be on this platform that has been specially constructed a couple of metres above the mall, and there is a real buzz now. People are wearing blow-up tiaras, flags galore, they've got their bunting. There's cheers, as you mentioned before, every time a street sweeper goes past. There was a very junior-looking unit of constables before who were blushing as the crowd went wild as they marched down the mall. So people are excited. I will admit personally I was a little bit nervous. A few weeks ago the mood felt a little flat, but the anticipation certainly has built this week in particular. You could see the street displays go up in central London. There were crowns on the bus stops yesterday in Oxford Street, and there's one of those street sweepers now, very noisy. And I went for a walk around my own neighbourhood yesterday morning, and there were kids going to school dressed up as little mini kings and queens because they were having a coronation day. It is certainly not like people here have been deprived of the sort of pageantry we are going to see, given that this is the third major royal event in 12 months. We had the Platinum Jubilee celebrations right here last June, then of course the Queen's funeral, and now a coronation. And you've got, it'd be remiss of us not to acknowledge the fact that there is a lot going on in the background of this country. There is a huge cost of living crisis, so naturally there has been questions asked about the cost of the coronation, but for the most part, the people here are very excited for what is to happen over the next couple of hours. Michael?
All right, Sarah, thank you. Competing very well with the street cleaner behind you there, doing its job, getting the mall all swept nice and tidy for the grand procession that is about to begin. But I'm just taking in these beautiful pictures inside Westminster Abbey now, and Hugh and Angela might bring you in to help commentate here. There's quite a game of chairs and thrones and symbolism involved. Hugh, talk us through what we're seeing there.
So what we're seeing is the theatre of the coronation, the Coronation Theatre as it's called inside Westminster Abbey, and these throne chairs, the chairs of state and the chairs of estate, and the coronation chair itself that has the stone of destiny underneath it that's been brought down from Scotland, stolen by some Scottish nationalist university students in the preceding years before the Queen's coronation. They managed to get it back just in time. But this is where it's all going to play out, and it looks spectacular. And what I think is one of the best things about today is that all the pictures we've got of the Queen's coronation back in 1953 are on film and it's deteriorating, whereas today we've got, you know, beautiful HD television to be able to broadcast these pictures around the world. And these troops that are preparing these marching bands on Whitehall, marching past the Cenotaph and Downing Street there, the home of the British Prime Minister. The remarkable thing, Michael and Angela, is that when the procession forms up while the service is happening inside the Abbey, those 4,000 troops will be forming up on the procession route. The front will be on the Mall and the rear of it will be at the Abbey. When Charles joins the rear of the procession, the procession moves here to Buckingham Palace. The front of it reaches Buckingham Palace. The rear will only be going past the Cenotaph back there. That's how long it will be. The biggest military procession in 7 decades in this country, and they know how to do it, so it's going to look spectacular.
Oh, yes. Angela, an interesting passing of time and the way these things can be broadcast or shown or exposed to the most amount of people. Of course, the Queen's procession was long.
Oh, yes.
Deliberately so, so as many other people could see as possible.
Well, exactly, because as we're saying, you know, today millions around the world will be watching this live, so everyone will have an opportunity, if they wish, to be able to see the King, the Queen, and everything that happens. But in 1953, we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have mobile telephones, we didn't have all of that, and so the Queen's procession to the Abbey was about 2.3 miles, a bit longer than this one because it went along the embankment, along the Thames. But when she had been crowned and she was then in that amazing gold coach, she went not just from the Abbey back to the palace, she went all the way out as far as Oxford Street and Bond Street. She went into the West End, and it was about 5 miles long. And the whole procession, if you were standing watching it from beginning to end, it took... Oh, the Band of the Royal Marines there, absolutely wonderful.
They are your favourite, aren't they?
They are my favourite because my dad was a Royal Marine, so I feel very patriotic when I see them. But the Queen's procession took 45 minutes to pass you, and there were 16,000 troops in it as opposed to the 7,000 that we'll have this time.
All right, Angela, thank you. You're watching a 7 News special, The Coronation of King Charles III. Coming up, how Charles's true love Camilla will become Queen, the romance that divided Britain and how she's won over people's hearts. But first, Charles spent a lot of time in Australia. Here's how the Brits remember his time here.
It's a concert fit for a king.
Join us for a moment in history.
Seven's got you the best front row seats at Windsor Castle as the world lights up for this once-in-a-lifetime coronation celebration.
Aussies come ready to party.
The world's biggest superstars will join royalty for the grandest party of the century.
You'll see it all on 7.
The Coronation Concert, Monday 7:30 on 7 and 7+.
What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in.
Oh Lord, Jetson made another one.
Just joshing. I'm spending this holiday locked in. My body got rid of them toxins. Sports in the top 10. This where my head is. Listen. Ooh, back then wasn't worried about me though. In the gym trying to work on my free throw. What's poppin'? Brand new whip, just hopped in.
Kia, movement that inspires.
Winter, the perfect time to seek a little... And... you'll find so much more than you expect this winter, and you'll find it in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Yeah.
At Amplithon, we believe in personalisation.
Hi, Gary.
If I'm watching TV, I'll miss my phone or the doorbell ring.
I can set you up so you can receive calls right into your hearing aid. You can even connect them to a TV and doorbell with Bluetooth.
Now I've heard everything. I'll get it.
Now I've heard everything.
Tell us about your lifestyle and we'll customise a solution to meet your needs. Book a free hearing check today. Call 13MyEars today.
Well, this is a bit precarious. If this was a film, the jacket would probably start to rip at this point.
Yeah, but this is a MacPack.
MacPack? Yeah. This fabric's incredible. What is it, silk?
No. But it is water resistant.
Yeah, good.
Oi, I think someone's coming.
Hi.
Oh, this is a bit precarious.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. I'm not overly concerned, though. It's a MacPack.
Dominic Toretto. They say when you're facing death, your life flashes before your eyes. Are they right?
This is your last ride. Boom.
There's no place to land.
Who said anything about landing?
Fast 10. In cinemas May 18.
What's going on here, then?
Dodgy bath bomb search from the Mother's Day stall.
Thankfully, her insurance will cover the rebuild.
Especially as she added Budget Direct's sum insured safeguard to her policy.
Look, she doesn't have a worry in the world.
Home rebuild costs higher than expected? We'll increase the sum insured up to 25%.
Insurance solved with Budget Direct.
Thanks for joining our special coverage here with the Royal Standard, we believe. Let's have a look at it now. It's flying right above Buckingham Palace. Not a lot of breeze right now, but there it is. That means the King is in residence as he prepares for his coronation. For his mother's crowning, housemaids, chefs, gardeners gathered inside the Grand Hall right in there at Buckingham Palace to see her depart, and they will do something very similar for the King. What they don't want is anything like this happening, as we saw during the week. A man arrested accused of throwing shotgun cartridges into the royal grounds, the forecourt there at Buckingham Palace. That was on Tuesday night. He was heard shouting, "I'm going to kill the King." These world-exclusive pictures were recorded by our 7 News cameraman Henry Lynch. The palace and the media, where we're broadcasting from, went right into lockdown. The King, though, wasn't inside, so not a lot of fuss for him, but certainly a bit of commotion for the police, and a good reason to get the security on high alert as well. There will be a new Queen in the coming hours, Queen Camilla. Her romance with Charles was certainly controversial before they even started dating. She was described with some unthinkable terms, among them a villain, in a life that experts would say have certainly been hell at times. Today, the mother of two, now known as kind and humorous, is embraced as the woman who stayed the distance in a story that sums up true romance.
Their decades-old romance is anything but conventional. A story of sex and scandal with a fairy tale ending.
This is a love story that has passed the test of time.
Meeting in the summer of 1971. Camilla was 24, Charles 22. After a brief romance, he went off to the Navy, where the relationship couldn't last.
Because at the time in the 70s, you had to be a virgin if you married the heir to the throne. And Prince Charles knew this because she had been going out with Andrew Parker Bowles,
who Camilla soon married. In 1981, she attended Charles and Diana's wedding. The rest is history. When the royal marriage broke down, Camilla was accused of wrecking it.
Well, there were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded.
Exposed as a mistress, reviled by the British public.
At the time, she was public enemy number 1.
Diana called her a Rottweiler, people called her the worst woman in the world, and she mainly stayed at home because all the paparazzi would be there and journalists would be banging on the window or on the door. Must have been hell to be attacked like that.
Later even blamed by some for Diana's death. For years, the late Queen refused to be in the same room as her son's lover.
She was the villain.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
But through perseverance and the sheer passage of time, judgment in and outside the palace softened.
Gradually, the Queen and Prince Philip could see that she was making a fantastically good impression on Charles's behaviour.
When they eventually married in a civil ceremony in 2005, it was announced Camilla would be known as Princess Consort when Charles became king. But during her Platinum Jubilee celebrations last year, the late Queen said it was her sincere wish Camilla be known as Queen Consort, completing a majestic makeover from mistress to matriarch.
The British public are embracing Camilla now because, first of all, they can see that she's stayed the distance with dignity. She hasn't had a tantrum.
She's been able to bring a sort of reality check to the king sometimes, I think. She has this lived experience outside the royal family which helps to ground her and in turn helps to ground him, and people recognise that.
A mother of 2 with 5 grandchildren and 5 step-grandchildren, the Queen is patron of more than 90 charities promoting health and literacy, supporting domestic violence survivors. She's widely described as kind, compassionate and funny.
I call her a closet Aussie because she's witty, she's warm, she's got a wicked sense of humour, very, very wry. Her sense of humour is drier than an AA clinic. She's always sending herself up. One day I said to her, "Oh, you look really great today," and she just leant over and whispered in my ear, "Spanx." And I thought, how great to have the future Queen telling you about her underwear arrangements.
But most of all, she makes the king laugh, cheers him up and calms him down, more important than ever today.
I think she'll be very nervous, both for herself and King Charles, because she doesn't like being in the spotlight. But I think she will try as hard as she can to put her stress to one side and make sure that King Charles is okay.
In a role he'd find almost impossible without the woman he loves by his side.
So while the Queen Consort is supporting the King today, it is Camilla's family who will be supporting her. Inside the congregation, we will see her son, Tom Parker Bowles, her daughter, Laura Lopez, and their sons, Freddie, who is 13, and twins, Louis and Gus, also 13, will all be pages of honour, holding the train of Camilla's robe as she walks inside Westminster Abbey. Her younger sister, Annabelle Elliott, will be one of her 2 ladies in attendance, and Camilla has long credited the females in her life with getting her through those dark years of the late 90s and early 2000s. And then the other person we will see in Camilla's corner is her ex-husband, Andrew Parker Bowles. So 60 years since the pair met, 28 years since they were divorced, they remain dear friends. They often go to lunch together. They have described him as her co-conspirator. Andrew Parker Bowles even has Duchess of Cornwall roses growing in his garden in the Cotswolds, a gift from his ex-wife. He will be among a handful of people inside that abbey today to be attending his second coronation at the age of 13. He was actually a page of honour for the then Lord High Chancellor. And of course, Michael, the other person we know attending his second crowning is Camilla's current husband, the King himself.
There you go. Well, it's the most traditional of services in a very modern family setting, I think we can fairly say. Sarah, thank you. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in Angela and Hugh again here outside Buckingham Palace. Angela, I know you've met Camilla quite a few times and had quite a bit to do with her. The question is she still a villain these days, as Harry would call her?
Of course she's not, no, and she never was a villain. I mean, you look at those photographs, you can just see as they look into each other's eyes, these two people are, and I've said this before, these are two pensioners, these are two elderly people, very much in love. Yeah. And no, I don't feel sorry for her. I can empathise with the fact that in the early days, you know, I think she told a friend of hers she could hardly go outside in her house because, of course, when it was announced that they were a couple again, and he was still married to Diana, then the paparazzi were covering every single move, and everybody saw her as a villain. But you know, she's a very intelligent woman. She has kept her dignity. She has followed the Queen's line, never complain, never explain. She just got on with her job, and since she has become the wife of the future king, when she became the Duchess of Cornwall, she has performed her job brilliantly, as you saw in the film there. She makes him laugh. She supports him. She knows his every whim. She knows how to handle him. And I don't mean that in a sort of derogatory way, but, you know, as any wife and husband, they get on well together. And I think the important thing about her image is that since, and I think Hugh will agree with me here, because you've met her and you like her yourself, that the minute you meet her, people are just taken in by her natural charm, her wit, the fact that she's genuinely interested in people and what she's doing. And as a result, people who know her now and have met her, and I think the nation as a whole, who have seen the wonderful influence that she has had on Charles and his character, she is now not loved by everybody, but she is loved by a lot of people. She is admired, and certainly her image has changed dramatically, certainly over the last 5-10 years, I think.
She's earned her stripes and she's worked hard.
She has.
All right, wonderful live shots we're seeing too, Angela and Hugh, as we're talking. The many parts of the procession arriving into central London, in and around Westminster Abbey and where we are, Buckingham Palace. Also, early arrival shots we've been looking at as well at Westminster Abbey, going through the side door, many of the invited guests beginning to arrive. Many more of these live images coming up as this city really prepares for a wonderful event, the coronation of King Charles III. We're back shortly.
Seven News exclusives direct to you.
How'd it feel having the police waiting there for you?
Confronting.
The one source where the true meaning of exclusive is delivered every night.
Ferrari veered into traffic.
This entire area sent into lockdown.
When you watch 7 News, you really know the news.
It's not rocket science. You pick up to 10 numbers, Keno Go picks 20, and the more you match, the more you could win. Up to 20 million bucks every 3 minutes.
Keno Go. You could win up to $20 million every 3 minutes. Download the app now.
You win some, you lose more. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
There are many ways to do life. Whatever your journey, Town Life Insurance has you covered, with up to a 15% discount that rewards healthy habits. Get your quote today.
Thanks for being the best, Mum. To snuggle, play with, and cuddle. Get cosy knitwear or super soft gowns for only $20. From Best and Less.
Create more moments together with Fancy Feast Petite Delights. Exquisite recipes in delightfully smaller portions. For more moments, just the two of you. Fancy Feast Petite Delights.
There are many places to lose your glasses, but the best place is Medonic Laser Clinic. Medonic Laser Clinic, the best place to lose your glasses.
Looking for a better energy deal? Switch to AGL Online and we'll load you up with up to $150 in bill credits, with $75 off your electricity and $75 off your gas. That's altogether great value. Switch to AGL today.
With HelloFresh, home-cooked meals are quick and easy every day. Delicious meals in minutes thanks to pre-portioned ingredients and simple-to-prepare recipes. Order today at hellofresh.com.au.
We all like open plan living, but sometimes wouldn't it be nice to zone off areas? You can transform many rooms. Doors Plus Zone Living has helped thousands get the flexibility they wanted. Doors Plus.
No fuss. These guys are delivering high-speed Superloop internet. Real quick, guys, what's your name? So switch to Superloop and refresh your internet. Refresh your internet. Superloop.
Breaking news at Beaumont's. Australia's newest range of hard flooring has arrived. Luxury vinyl, heavenly hybrid, stunning laminate and engineered timber. And right now, buy 5 square metres and get the next one free. For all your flooring needs, you'll be happy you chose Beaumont's.
In 9 days, it's here.
Get ready, get set, and blow!
All new Blow Up starts Monday, May 15.
It'll blow your mind.
Thanks for joining our special coverage of this coronation. And have a look at that. Just in that commercial break then, they've begun to dress the balcony, hanging the red and gold velvet over the balcony there, because we know at the end of this entire day, the working royals, the crowned king and queen, will stand there with the working members of the royal family. So the various attendants inside the palace putting the final touches to that, pinning it in place, making sure that it doesn't fall over. I suspect one of the cheekiest moments of the day we'll see will be young Prince Louis, who I think could well be the star of this day. The family doesn't wheel him out that much.
Well, apparently he's coming, and he is the court jester, isn't he?
Yeah,
yes,
so
he's going to be. But I suspect that his mum might just be beside him most of the time.
Exactly
just
right.
Keep a hand to make sure.
Charlotte.
Charlotte, to make sure he doesn't actually fall over the balcony.
Charlotte does keep his brother in line, but I think that's going to be fun to see the whole family there and the kids as well. All right, let's have a talk about who's actually attending. There are 2,200 people attending the coronation. As we mentioned, of course, Prince George will be a page of honour. He'll be one of 4 schoolboys helping carry the King's robes. The other are sons of the King's friends. Charlotte and Louis will also attend. There's Louis, travelling in the coach with their mum and dad, the Prince and Princess of Wales. We know Anthony Albanese's attending. He's one of 100 leaders invited. Now, Joe Biden won't be there, but his wife Jill will. The Duchess of York is also not attending, but we understand has been invited to a royal family celebration. This we do know, the Duchess of Sussex, Meghan Markle, won't be in attendance. Camilla's 2 children, grandchildren, will support her during the ceremony. Tom Parker Bowles, his wife Sarah, Camilla's sister Annabelle Elliott, and her best friend, the Marchioness of Lansdowne, will be her ladies in attendance. We'll also see her ex-husband, Andrew Parker Bowles, as Sarah mentioned. They were married for 22 years. The pair is still close, known as Camilla's co-conspirator. Foreign royals, including Princess Mary, will attend, along with Prince Albert of Monaco and the King of Jordan. And there were no crowned monarchs at the Queen's ceremony. Now, here's a list of the Australians invited. As we know, our soccer superstar Sam Kerr will hold our flag at the ceremony. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and his partner Jodie Hayden among the world leaders. State governors are also attending. Comedian Adam Hills, he's got a big presence here in Britain, he made the list, along with the singer Nick Cave and Indigenous artist Jasmine Coe. The former Foreign Minister Julie Bishop has accepted an invite. Dr Daniel Knorr, who founded Side Medics, helping provide homeless people medical help, he's attending. And so is Australian nurse Emily Regan, praised for working in emergency departments during COVID. Believe it or not, when she got the invite, she thought it was all a prank call.
overwhelmed, if I'm honest. It's an impressive list, and little old me's on it as well, so...
Can you tell me why you're on it?
I don't know. That's a great question. You'll have to ask them. No, I think because of my my media stuff in COVID and nursing here, and yeah, I think they just kind of wanted someone to, I guess, represent all the nurses. So that'll be me. Then I was at work, really busy with a really unstable patient in resus, and I thought someone was joking, so I was maybe a little bit blunt and like, look, I'm at work, I'm really busy, I'll call you back, give me your name and number. And then it was real, and I had to apologise profusely.
It's a great story, and Emily's family is watching the coronation, ready to spot her, and happy to say her mum Diane joins us now. Diane, hello to you. Thought it was a prank call. Love this story. How did Emily actually pass on the news?
She called me, actually. I was having a break, and I was sitting outside on my front veranda, and she called and said that she wanted to talk about something. And I thought, oh, okay, you know, we've had lots of those sorts of conversations with them over the years. And so I sat outside, and then she started relaying this story, and like an hour and a half later, you know, it's like, this is real, Emily, you deserve this, you're a great representative for everybody. And she still didn't believe it until, you know, more and more information kept coming in, and she, you know, she got requests for bios, and she got sample invitations, and then it sort of was like, oh, this is real. So yeah, it's a fabulous story, and Emily's reaction to that phone call is so typically Emily. It's like, I'm busy here, I've got patients to deal with, you know, and just expecting it was a prank.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, she's a good practical person, but with a huge honour today. You must be really proud, Mum.
Very, very proud. Yes, very proud. I mean, you know, all parents are proud of their kids, and I guess, you know, it's lovely that we can share this special occasion on behalf of all of the people who have fabulous children who have done fabulous things. And, you know, Emily's been lucky enough to be recognised for her contributions, and we're, you know, lovely. It's so lovely to celebrate. But really the recognition is for all of the health workers in London who, you know, worked through those very difficult times.
Well said, very well said, Diane, and thank you so much for joining us from Perth today. So proud of your daughter, and you'll be picking Emily out in the coverage there. We'll look out for her as well. Thanks for joining us today. Hugh, tell us more about this guest. That's a lovely story there, isn't it? Tell me more about the guest list.
Michael, keep an eye out for some celebrities in the congregation. Bear Grylls, the action TV presenter, he's chief scout here in the UK, so he'll be there with the scouts today. There'll be a big group of scouts, actually, not too far from where Julie Bishop and the representatives from the Prince's Trust will be sitting. Other celebrities to watch for: Stella McCartney, the fashion designer; Joanna Lumley, the actress; Rowan Atkinson, who many of us know as Mr. Bean; Lionel Richie, who's performing, of course, at the Coronation concert on Sunday night, attended the garden party here during the week, and plenty of aristocrats, shall we call them that, Angela, like 32-year-old Hugh Grosvenor, who is the Duke of Westminster, one of the richest men in Britain, inherited his wealth obviously from his father, who died from a very sudden heart attack a couple of years ago, owns acres and acres of real estate through Knightsbridge and Belgravia, incredible land holding. He will be involved in some of the ceremonial aspects of today. He is one of the standard bearers of the Royal Standard, so he will be carrying in 1/4 of the Royal Standard today. And one of the pages of honour is a young 13-year-old boy, Lord Oliver Cholmondeley. Now, it's spelt Cholmondeley or something like that, but it's pronounced Cholmondeley. Now, he's a twin. His older brother, clearly born just minutes before, will inherit the title of Marchioness of Cholmondeley. But because he was born just a few minutes later, he doesn't inherit that title. Such is the order of succession with inherited titles in this country. So as a bit of a consolation, he gets to be one of the pages of honour with Prince George today, unlike his older brother, who picks up the estate and the Marchioness title later in life.
And you've got all those royals coming as well.
And all the royals, and all the royals from across Europe and around the world, the Japanese emperor here as well, so pretty special.
You know why they didn't, can we just say briefly why they didn't used to invite royals? way back. It was the fear that someone perhaps from a royal family, particularly in Europe, might come along and during a coronation eye up Britain and think, this is good for invasion, and actually come and take the throne away. So, but I don't think that the King of Sweden has got that in mind, and he will be in the Abbey today.
They're all fairly passive these days.
They're all pretty passive, but that was why they didn't invite them before.
As we're talking, also a big welcome to all of our viewers in South Australia as well. Thanks for joining us today. Now, here's what we're going to see in the coming hours. The King will soon arrive behind us at Buckingham Palace to meet staff and have final preparations for his coronation. He'll spend about 40 minutes inside. He doesn't live there, of course, but it is the main working residence. So he'll make a short drive, a kilometre or so from St James's Palace, from the front gates there and right inside. The King's procession begins. They are going to board that there, the Diamond Jubilee State Coach pulled by 6 Windsor grey horses, accompanied by the Household Cavalry. Then it really gets underway. Charles and Camilla will leave Buckingham Palace. They're going to journey down the Mall, where already, as we've been seeing, thousands of people are preparing to cheer him. They'll turn right at St James's Park, continue through Horse Guards Parade, down Parliament Street and into Westminster Abbey. That whole journey, it's going to take about 23 minutes. And inside Westminster Abbey, the coronation begins, and that will be quite something. 8 p.m. East Coast, 7:30 Adelaide, 6 p.m. Perth. The service will take 2 hours, an hour shorter than his mother's coronation. The crowning moment is going to be about an hour into the service, with gun salutes outside and Charles vowing to serve the kingdom and its people. It'll all be on that incredible mosaic there that we're watching, where the coronation chair will be. At the end of the service, they'll board that there, the horse-drawn Gold State Coach in rehearsals this week, pulled by 8 Windsor grey horses. Marching bands and about 4,000 troops will escort the newly crowned King and Queen back here to Buckingham Palace, passing their people who may well have joined in, as we were talking about earlier, and sworn allegiance to His Majesty. Then we'll receive the first balcony wave from Charles as King, and that there, the traditional fly past, that's going to last about 6 minutes. Angela, we are going to see not only an incredible street parade, but also the service inside Westminster Abbey. Layers of ritual, regal powers, and also religious rites.
Yes, I think what perhaps people have forgotten or never knew is that a coronation is actually a very solemn religious ceremony. And it was this because in the very early days, I mean, going all the way back to 1066 and William the Conqueror, and before that to Edward, this was a very volatile country. And there were a lot of people who were all vying for the crown at any one time. So whoever was finally chosen as king needed to be seen and accepted as the leader. And it had to be a very public demonstration that that person was going to be the leader. And the church, of course, was all powerful, certainly in medieval times. And so it became a very important combination of not just ceremony, but of dedication in the eyes of God, when the king was making a pledge to his people and being seen to do it with the support of the church. And so it was a religious ceremony, and all of the bits and pieces that we see, all of the regalia, they are important because in those early days, of course, the ceremony would have been held in Latin. And so hardly anybody would have understood what was going on, except perhaps the clergy and some highly educated members of the king's entourage. And so it was important to have an awful lot of bits and pieces, a lot of...
So the orb and the sceptres, they all were visually, would tell people power.
Exactly. Yeah. As they were being handed to the king or used as part of the ceremony, there would be no doubt that when the king received, I think he receives at least four different swords during the day. Because, of course, in those days, the king was head of the army and led his troops into battle. So it was important to see that he had the temporal sword of justice, which said that he's the king and that he's in charge of the army. There was the sword of justice, which said that he will be a just king. The sword of mercy, that he will also be merciful. The sword of state, which said, that's it, he's got the power now, he's going to rule. The orb, which is in the shape of the globe, with a little cross on the top, basically saying, God looks over the earth, but we're now putting the globe in the hands of the king. He's got the power, overseen by God.
And that
all
orb
of these
representing
things,
the Christian world
precisely,
as well.
because even if they didn't understand the words, they could understand the symbolism. And the moment that the crown is placed on the head, St Edward's crown, that is the moment this man is king.
That's all obviously happening inside Westminster Abbey, which might be a good time to go back and check in with David Koch, Victoria Arbiter, and Chris Reason, who's at Westminster Abbey as well, guys.
Yeah, Michael, I've been looking out for the Australian contingent. Haven't seen them coming. Guess they're coming through the side door and the front door, depending on where they're sitting. Also, it's going to be wonderful to see 3 of our Victoria Cross recipients who will be attending the coronation today. Of course, Daniel Kieran, Mark Donaldson, and our oldest living Victoria Cross recipient, Keith Payne, who won his Victoria, or received his Victoria Cross for amazing deeds in Vietnam, and one of the great characters. And I think Daniel Kieran will be helping Keith come in his wheelchair, so it'll be wonderful to see them. Victoria, we're seeing the pomp, we're seeing the ceremony. Isn't even close to starting yet, is it? It's so meticulously planned. Do coronations always go off without a hitch?
You would think with all this rehearsal that yes, absolutely, they would all be pitch perfect every time, but no, actually something of course inevitably always goes wrong, or just things take over. So in 1761 at George III's coronation, it went on for such a long time that people started eating when the sermon was still in full swing. But actually one of my favourite stories is at George IV's coronation. He was not terribly fond of his estranged wife, Caroline of Brunswick, and it was a hugely lavish affair, but she spent the entire time trying to get into the Abbey. He had made sure that all the doors were bolted, so she spent the whole service running around trying all the doors. She eventually gave up and went home. But at Queen Victoria's coronation, she was only 19 at the time, and the way it's sort of put today is that it suffered from a lack of rehearsal. It was a 5-hour ceremony during which the Archbishop tried to force the coronation ring onto the wrong finger. An elderly peer fell down the stairs while he was trying to pay his homage, and another confused member of the clergy told her that everything was over when it wasn't. But still, she wrote in her diary that it was the proudest day of her life.
Oh, I'm sure it would have been. Some great stories there. Hopefully we'll get some quirky stories come out of this one as well. Where did Charles and Camilla spend last night? Because for hundreds of years, the King would spend the night before, a couple of days before, in the Tower of London, wouldn't they, before coming to the coronation?
Yes, that's a tradition dating way back. But last night, actually, while members of the foreign royal families and the British royal family, they were all having a fancy private dinner at a club in town, while the King and Queen Consort had a private, quiet dinner at home, just the 2 of them, I think, in preparation for what is obviously going to be a momentous day. And, of course, our very own Princess Mary will be, and husband Fred will be part of the congregation today. They will, and do you know, I have to hand it to Princess Mary. Obviously, she's a royal herself now, but she delivered the most phenomenal curtsy to the King at the reception that was held at Buckingham Palace last night. Clearly, she's delighted to be there as well. Yeah, Rizzo, you're with us. You spoke to the PM the other day about the allegiance. We'll come to Chris very, very shortly. But Victoria, a lot of Australians love their garden beds. And so do Camilla and Charles. They're great horticulturalists. Talk us through the flowers that we're seeing in Westminster Abbey and the significance of them. There are some dazzling arrangements in there. We got our first glimpse when the royal family revealed a video late yesterday. But this is all spring foliage, and of course with an emphasis on sustainability. So there's no plastics been used, no floral foam has been used, but all just beautiful spring foliage that has been drawn from all 4 corners of the United Kingdom, everything represented. After the service, these flowers are going to be donated through Floral Angels to a number of care homes and veterans' homes and elderly facilities. Oh, we're just seeing the Australian contingent come in now. Dr. Daniel Nord, the former Young Australian of the Year, just about to go in through the front door there, resplendent in morning suit. Does the coronation come with the dress code? Obviously, it's not sort of
smart casual no-rip jeans, but you know, we've got morning suits, we've got lounge suits, we've got medals, the whole lot.
We're seeing the whole lot, that's right. And I think most people that are coming to this today, it's an opportunity to put the glad rags on and really make it as special as it can possibly be. I think it's really quite extraordinary that Nick Cave is amongst this contingent of special Aussies as well.
Yes.
He got a lot of criticism online from his fans saying, why on earth are you going to an event like this? But he said that he has an affection for the royal family and that his mum was a huge admirer of the Queen, and I think he's absolutely delighted to be in attendance today.
And also, Julie Bishop and Nick Cave are just going in now. Julie's just had an Instagram moment at the front door going in a hat there. I'm not great in the fashion stakes, but
you know,
looking gorgeous as always. She's so stylish. So the Australian group going in there together.
And it really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, isn't it, Koshi? And I think what is so extraordinary with this coronation in particular, it's been less about focus on the aristocracy and more about regular members of the public, people that have served their communities, people that have really gone out of their way to volunteer and to commit themselves to service.
Yes, yep. We've just saw Nick Cave coming through there. We just missed him passing by, but if we can, these are live shots, of course, of everybody coming into Westminster Abbey, and we're taking the feed from the host broadcaster, but we'll see if we can get that vision back to show everyone. But it is, I think that's the wonderful part about it. It is such a mixture, and because the theme of this coronation is service to the community, that's being reflected in the guests, isn't it? A lot of the nobility are not there. A lot of the big parliamentarians, House of Commons, not there, all replaced by these members of the community who've done so much in terms of service to their communities.
There's a lot of people with their noses out of joint in terms of the aristocracy. I think they just automatically assumed they'd be included. But we have to remember in 1953, the Queen had 8,000 guests at her coronation. Health and safety guidelines today would never allow for that, so only 2,000.
There's Julie Bishop just behind the lady in pink there, walking with Daniel Knorr in the maroon tie there. So coming in together, which is wonderful.
Part of the Australian contingent as well. Is that Emma Thompson?
It is Emma Thompson. Oh,
with her husband,
bit of a reminder
Greg
of every Australian's favourite movie, Love Actually. It's great to have Emma on the guest list.
Definitely a proper one. So, and I think as well, the Queen Consort will be delighted that Leanne Benjamin, very famous ballet dancer in Australia, she was a principal dancer with the Royal Ballet for a number of years, because the Queen Consort keeps fit by taking ballet class, and I know that Angela, she'll probably talk to Michael about it shortly. She's part of the Silver Swans, which is a ballet class that was set up for people of a certain age so that they could keep fit through ballet dancing.
Wow.
And the Queen Consort has absolutely loved it. She has joked. She's been very, very self-deprecating in terms of her skills, but she said she has really enjoyed being part of that programme. So lovely to see Leanne Benjamin coming today as well.
So do they have a coronation first dance where she can excel with those skills?
Wouldn't that be a nice surprise? Yes, if we got some inside video of that.
Yeah, and more of the guests coming in now. We will try and bring you pictures of more of the Australians coming into Westminster Abbey very shortly after the break. So,
Maggie Smith.
And as we're more British acting royalty.
We do have acting royalty in the house, actually, don't we? And also, as another shout out to Australia, we've got Madeleine Easton, who's going to be playing in the Abbey as well later today. So a nice turnout from Australia.
Certainly all arriving. Everyone has to be seated within the next 45 minutes before the heads of state attend. We will have a lot more from Westminster Abbey live right across Australia. You are watching the coronation of King Charles III.
Shock confessions.
I am ready to settle, but I don't know.
I was worried if this farm's enough for her.
There are things that you don't see.
Now everyone's true colours will come out eventually.
And a fake walkout.
She's played this whole thing.
If I don't do something, I'm going to lose 2 relationships.
My head's spinning. This is at the point I could easily send the wrong lady home.
Farmer Wants a Wife, Sunday 7 o'clock.
Chances are you're due for a COVID-19 booster.
Time to top up.
It's the best way to maintain your protection against severe illness.
Pump up.
So if you're an adult and it's 6 months since your last COVID vaccination or infection, you can now get a booster.
Keep your guard up.
However you say it, you can now top up your protection with the latest vaccine. Visit the website to book your free booster.
The ball's in your court.
Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
This is the internet. But this is the internet with Aussie Broadband. It's fast and reliable. And if you do ever have a problem, our Aussie-based support team will get it sorted. Aussie Broadband. Bloody good broadband.
There are many places to lose your glasses, but the best place is Medonic Laser Clinic. Medonic Laser Clinic, the best place to lose your glasses.
There you go, guys. Come on, mate. Yeah, righto.
Come on,
Oz Lotto, bringing the big Aussie fun every Tuesday.
There'll be lunches from Cape York to Broome and on warm afternoons near Mudgee. Because Tip Top bakes every day with Australian wheat.
On now at Harvey Norman, exclusive deals on Temper, a mattress like no other. Allowing you to fine-tune your sleeping position, head and foot up and zero-G function, the Temper Zero-G Aspire Elite 2.0 Queen Adjustable Base. Amazing value, only $999. Hot price on the Temper Smart Cool 1 Queen mattress featuring cooling technology, only $1999 each. Transform your sleep today with Temper. All the support and comfort you need, with the flexibility you love. Feel Temper for yourself, now at Harvey Norman.
Go!
I'll guide you through connecting energy for your new home. Focus on the breath. Sign up. With PowerShop, you have power.
Charge into MG for the 2022 HS plate clearance on the HS Vibe mid-sized SUV with MG Pilot Safety in 7-year warranty. From only $31,990 drive away with immediate delivery. Charge into your MG dealer today.
You know those really big international lotteries you hear about? Heaps of Aussies are already winners from them, thanks to the Lottery Office. The USA Power Lotto is now over $100 million. Draw closes 10 a.m. tomorrow, so grab your ticket now at lotteryoffice.com.au.
Thanks so much for joining our 7 News special coverage of the King's coronation, taking you straight inside Westminster Abbey, where all of the invited guests, the 2,000 of them, have been asked, obviously, to arrive early, promptly, to get in place. They've got a little bit of a wait ahead of them, but they all had to be in place, obviously. All of those special guests in their absolute finest. And we started to see the Australian contingent arrive as well. There's the singer, Nick Cave. One of the dozen or so people, Hugh Whitfield, I'll bring you in on this, is Angela Rippon as well to help me have a look at these pictures as we talk. It's an interesting mix of crowd. I mean, obviously representatives of the Commonwealth realms, but also other European royalty, but a lot of community-minded and social people who've helped out the last few years.
Yeah, and they're coming in a particular order, obviously, Michael. We're kind of starting at the bottom of the list first, and then as we get closer to the coronation service beginning, that's when we start to work our way up the list. So it'll be members of foreign royal families, and then after that it will be other foreign dignitaries, heads of state, and it's realm nation prime ministers and governors general who are almost left to the last minute when Sam Kerr brings in the Australian flag along with the other 15 realm flags. So not all the Commonwealth countries, but only the nations where Charles is the king. Right. And then the Union flag, of course, for the United Kingdom, and the 4 flags of the constituent parts of the UK. So England, Northern Ireland, Scotland, and Wales as well. But we're seeing a real smattering there. So Chris Whitty, who is Chief Medical Officer in the UK, the face of COVID and during the pandemic, leading many of those press conferences, and behind him, Julie Bishop. I asked her yesterday when I saw her what she was going to wear. She wouldn't tell me, but that looks spectacular.
It's fantastic.
In
even
true
the hat,
Bishop,
even the hat matches.
She's done it again. She's done it again, Julie Bishop. She always looks great.
And she's here in a capacity, I think, is it the Prince's Trust that she's involved in?
So she's chair of the Prince's Trust Australia, which has only been operating in Australia for a couple of years. She took on that role after leaving Parliament, and she's here in London with a young 18-year-old girl from Western Sydney, Taylor Green Aldridge. She grew up down at Bega on the south coast of New South Wales, a young First Nations woman who's moved to Bankstown to work. She wants to work on the water with boats. So she's got a job at Port Kembla at the moment. She wants to be driving ferries in the future on Sydney Harbour. So she's done well.
Yeah.
This is Wellington Barracks, just across from where we are, just on the other side of St James's Park, with the marching bands and the Grenadier Guard marching band coming through there. That's where the troops will be forming up, waiting until the service begins, and then they can move on to the procession route.
Yeah, and then in fact just now we were seeing that the stands behind us were really beginning to fill up with all of those representatives from the NHS, from all sorts of charities that have a special link to both the King and the Queen. But inside the Abbey, of course, now it really is beginning to fill up with all of those dignitaries, but still quite a lot of them still to arrive, and quite interesting. They're going to be there for a very long time. And I hope that they brought something with them like water or whatever, if they've been allowed to take it in, because and of course there are you can't nip out if you want to go to the loo. You're in there, you're stuck there. You cannot come out until the ceremony finishes.
If you're in there, does everyone get a view of what will actually be happening?
Well, not necessarily, because of course it's a flat building. I mean, it's not built as a theatre, it's built as a church, and you need to hear the vicar who is going to talk to you, or the bishop speaking from the pulpit. But you can see there, you've got people in front of you. Many of the women, most of the women indeed, appear to be wearing rather spectacular hats. So you're probably going to see more of the hat in front of you than you are of the King and the Queen.
It's more like a day at the races, isn't it?
Precisely.
The thing is that at previous coronations you would have had hundreds of peers, so members of the House of Lords, and for the Queen's coronation and all the coronations before, hereditary peers. Andrew Lloyd Webber, the composer there, and so
he's written a special anthem, of course, for today.
That so that's he hopes will be hummable.
Pieces. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, the King has requested Andrew Lloyd Webber to write the anthem for today, and he wanted it to be hummable, so that people would walk along maybe the streets and just hum along and remember that coronation day back in May 2023.
Well, everyone already got hold a tune by humming, I think, so it's probably not a bad idea to do that. So, but on the subject of the music there, we have an Australian violinist, in fact, who's been invited into the whole mix as well. But there are, am I right in saying, a dozen commissioned pieces of music?
12 new commissioned pieces of music, and 5 of them have been written by women. And that's one of the features, I think, of this new ceremony, that there will be many things happening here today that have never happened before at a coronation. You have, apart from the 5 women who are represented as composers, you have 3 women bishops. Well, clearly there have never been women bishops in there before. You're going to have it, there we can see some of the regalia.
The ampulla and the spoon. Now, the spoon is one of the oldest parts of the crown jewels. The ampulla is holding the oil. The ampulla is the thing with the bird on top, by the way.
Yeah.
It's holding the holy oil that's been brought in from Jerusalem. In previous coronations, it would have been oil that came from animal products.
Yes.
Charles, not a fan of that. He's very keen to promote vegan or vegetarian causes. So the oil is made from olives, from the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem, blessed in the Holy Land and brought here for the anointing.
Not just the Mount of Olives, also from the monastery of Mary Magdalene, which is where his grandmother, who is Prince Philip's mother, is buried. And
Princess Alice.
Princess Alice is buried there. But also, as you say, it used to be from animal products, but now because it's olive oil, as you know, if you pour pour it over your salad does not smell particularly brilliantly. So it has been perfumed with rose and with all sorts of wonderful, wonderful perfumes to make it a little bit more acceptable.
Just pointing out here the entertainer Lionel Richie also appearing. His presence is interesting. I think many people who are watching this going, well, why did Lionel Richie get a bait? But
because he is an ambassador for the Prince's Trust and has been for a number of years, and actually has done a lot of work in America raising money to help the Prince's Trust, which the Prince actually started when he came out of the Navy. And apparently he had his £7,000 that all officers get when they leave the Navy, and that was what he used to set up the Prince's Trust at the beginning.
Really?
He didn't take public money. He did it with his own money, with the 7,000 quid he got for having been an officer in the Royal Navy. And Lionel Richie has joined him on many, many occasions to talk about the Prince's Trust around the world.
This is the first coronation too where women bishops will be in attendance.
Yeah, 3 of them.
3 of them. Of course, no such thing as a female bishop back in 1953, so the changing face of Britain represented, obviously, at this coronation.
And also the number of leaders of different faiths who will be there, who will also make some kind of recognition of the king during the service. So you have Buddhists, you have Sikhs, you have Hindus, you have, I think, 7 different faiths being represented there. And you've got the ceremony not just in English, not in Latin anymore, of course, not just in English, but songs are going to be sung in Welsh and in Gaelic, Irish Gaelic and Scottish Gaelic. So there are lots and lots of elements within this ceremony which demonstrate the multicultural view and life in Britain today.
And I think when you look at these pictures, there's Chris Whitty again. There's far more people in suits and fancy dresses and hats than uniforms or robes from the House of Lords. There's only going to be 40 members of the House of Lords. They're 40 members of Parliament. They've been drawn by ballot. It has riled up people left, right and centre. There are hereditary peers, earls and dukes and marquises who haven't been invited. They are all mightily cheesed off. But this is because Charles wanted the people in there, not necessarily all the old landowners and people
but the
with
MPs,
titles.
The MPs have got their own spots in Parliament Square. 400 of them will be there. They may not be inside the Abbey, but they will be on the route, if you like, and be able to see what's happening on the big screens.
all right, well, we're talking to the arrivals at Westminster Abbey that have been streaming in over the past half hour or so, and as we mentioned, many of those are going to be waiting there. There's Nick Cave again, the Australian entertainer, for some hours, but we will have this all for you in the coming hours as well as our 7 news bulletins. Quite an extraordinary evening ahead of this coronation of King Charles III. We're back shortly.
Does it run in the family?
Are you twins?
Indeed.
Are you the smart one in the family?
He's the cocky one.
Settle down, boys.
Or is it all just pure luck?
What are you better at than anyone else?
Fluking my way through a game show.
Yeah!
Whatever the reason, you don't need to know a thing to answer questions like this.
Which one of these rear-view mirror road signs is not quite right?
Think you know the answer? Find out on the 1% Club, Wednesday on 7 and 7+.
If you're going to do wellness, do it your way. Ditch activewear, just be active. Swap leg day for head day. Centrum Tailored Benefit Blends. Live colourful.
Powerball. Play by your own rules.
On now at Harvey Norman, exclusive deals on Temper, a mattress like no other. Allowing you to fine-tune your sleeping position, head and foot up and zero-G function, the Temper Zero-G Aspire Elite 2.0 Queen Adjustable Base. Amazing value, only $999. Hot price on the Temper Smart Cool 1 Queen mattress featuring cooling technology, only $1999 each. Transform your sleep today with Temper. All the support and comfort you need, with the flexibility you love. Feel Temper for yourself, now at Harvey Norman.
Go! Bruno thought going with a cheap car insurer seemed fine, until it came to the fine print at claim time.
Rules 105-3-22-AA, all cars are only insured if bloody thingamabob. Claim denied.
Next time, go with Amy instead. Who pays out over 99% of motor claims? Amy does.
Why did I choose Vileda? I like smart solutions. I'll do the floor. ProMist Max. Get it ready and spray. Cleaning has never been easier. Try it. You'll see. Vileda ProMist Max. It feels great to feel at home.
Chances are you're due for a COVID-19 booster.
Time to top up.
It's the best way to maintain your protection against severe illness.
Pump up.
So if you're an adult and it's 6 months since your last COVID vaccination or infection, you can now get a booster.
Keep your guard up.
However you say it, you can now top up your protection with the latest vaccine. Visit the website to book your free booster.
The ball's in your court.
Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
With ING, you've got Australia's most recommended bank by your side. Do you think?
Hi Australia, you're invited to our Robertson Brothers 1960s variety TV show featuring hits from Roy Orbison, Simon and Garfunkel, Cliff Richard, and the Shadows.
Summer holiday.
Simon Brooke McLaughlin from the Jersey Boys will be joining us again, along with the brilliant Dean Bourne as Roy Orbison. Come and see the Robertson Brothers 1960s variety TV show. Tickets are at the venue.
Welcome back to the Coronation pre-game show as some of the big players coming into Westminster Abbey now, Victoria. And it's very carefully staged, isn't it? There is a pecking order of when you arrive.
There really is, yes. We are seeing the hierarchy play out in terms of the level of importance of the guests, and that's not to diminish anybody's position at the coronation, but right before the King and Queen arrive, it'll be the last, which will be the foreign heads of state and foreign royalty.
And just Julie Bishop there, and Daniel Knorr, former Dr. Daniel Knorr, former Young Australian of the Year. So they're obviously high up on in the pecking order, coming in quite late.
Yeah, we've seen the Australian contingent, yes, definitely coming quite late. So in the first people that were beginning to arrive, those would have been your volunteers and your community leaders, the regular people that the King was very keen to include. This coronation, less about aristocracy.
And also, just around Buckingham Palace there, the stands, they are also specific invites as well. A lot of NHS employees. Again, this theme of service to the community playing out right the way through the coronation, inside Westminster Abbey, outside Buckingham Palace.
Outside Buckingham Palace, those are coveted seats. And yes, this is the way that the King is rewarding people. NHS workers, emergency responders, particularly post-pandemic, people that really dedicated so much of their time, really long, painful hours in the hospitals, and now they're getting to sit right outside Buckingham Palace to have a front row seat to the coronation. The key words, I think, with this coronation, Koshi, are inclusivity, diversity and unity, and we're seeing that play out in every respect.
Yeah, absolutely, and as the guests continue to arrive, we're now starting, I think, to receive some of the heads of state dignitaries are due about this time. Some of the buses and limousines looking to arrive. So far, there has been British theatre royalty. We've seen Dame Helen Mirren there. Maggie Smith, of course, you would expect her to come from Downton into yes. Westminster Abbey. And kids, it is like the entire cast of Harry Potter is here as well. We've had Sir Keith Branner as well, Maggie Smith, of course, in
Emma Thompson
in Harry Potter. It's just wonderful to see these British stars all being included.
And a long list of dames and sirs, which, all awarded because of their services to the arts. The King is a great patron of the arts. He's a massive Shakespeare fan. William Shakespeare is buried inside Westminster Abbey. And this is, as you say, these are all actors that have become popular through Harry Potter, but most of them got a start with the Royal Shakespeare Company. And the King has performed with them before. They did a bit of a spin on a to be or not to be soliloquy, and he had the last line. But he so admires these people, I think he's just delighted to have them included.
Oh, isn't that fantastic? Now, speaking of Westminster Abbey, though, the King was married in St Paul's Cathedral. Why choose Westminster Abbey?
For the coronation. So yes, his first wedding was at St Paul's Cathedral.
Yeah.
He married Camilla at St George's Chapel, Windsor, well, at the Guildhall, and then had a blessing. But Westminster Abbey, Koshi, has been the scene of every coronation since 1066, when William the Conqueror was crowned on Christmas Day. It is just dripping with history and tradition, and it's the final resting place of over 3,000 notable figures. Everyone you can imagine, from Sir Charles Darwin and Charles Dickens to Stephen Hawking. Sir Laurence Olivier is buried in there as well. It's been the site of 16 royal weddings, and just only 8 months ago we saw the funeral of the late Queen Elizabeth II conducted at Westminster Abbey as well. So
It's
really
sort of
rich.
Like the family church, for want of a better description of the royal family, isn't it? Is that how we should say it?
Yes, well, it's known as a royal peculiar. So yes, it's a family church. I think St Paul's Cathedral.
It's known as a royal peculiar.
A royal peculiar, yes. We have these odd terms. You can't ever just say the church. We have all these, especially when it's in a royal sphere, all these peculiar terms for royal peculiars.
So it's like a church by appointment.
Yes.
Is it? Sort of thing from the royals.
So St Paul's Cathedral, I think, was chosen initially for Charles and Diana's wedding simply because he was at the time the Prince of Wales, and it was a huge occasion and they needed the space for all the people they needed to invite. Numbers again reduced today compared to what they were in 1953. The Queen had around 8,000 guests in there, mostly drawn from the aristocracy, hereditary peers. I think there were over 900 MPs at that time. There's only 40 of them today, so a lot of noses out of joint. We're only going to see just over 2,000 people in Westminster Abbey, so it'll be a little bit more comfortable for them than it was in 1953, but fantastic to see them drawn from every part of the nation and from every walk of life.
And earlier we saw Andrew Lloyd Webber seated in the Abbey here. He was in the choral stalls, is it? The
in
long
the choir
one,
stalls,
the choir
yes,
stalls.
he was that.
Is there a pecking order in terms of seats as well? That looked a fairly flash spot for him.
It looked like a prime spot, didn't it? And I think that would be in keeping because he was commissioned to write one of the new pieces of music for this coronation. And actually, he gave a wonderful interview earlier this week. He very sadly lost one of his sons recently, and he said that this piece of music, Make a Joyful Noise, is going to be in tribute to his son and the coronation.
Lovely. Emma Thompson there, of course. And
she's dishing out the hugs. She's hugged almost everybody she's come across, I think, in Westminster
She seems a real character. She gave everyone a thumbs up walking in, so she's absolutely delighted to be there.
Definitely appreciating, I think, the sense of occasion, the history of this moment, and that she's privileged enough to be inside the Abbey.
Yeah, absolutely. And Americans well represented as well.
I'm glad you bring up actually the Americans, Koshi, because there was a lot of faux scandal sort of erupted because Joe Biden was seen to turn down, and so he was accused of snubbing the coronation. But I think it's important to note that no US president has ever attended a coronation, and the fact that he has sent his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, in his place really speaks to how the Bidens view the royal
John
family.
Kerry there, of course. But why? You could understand back in the days before planes, when you had to take a ship. My auntie came from Adelaide to the coronation, took her 8 weeks for Queen Elizabeth's coronation. But when it's just a quick flight, is it to do with the fact that America just wants to show they're a proud republic rather than... rather than being... Is that why a president, when it's so easy to come here, why would a former Secretary of State come and not the president, but his partner comes?
I think it's more about the circus, and I mean that respectfully, that comes with the president, the beast, or the Secret Service.
Security.
It's security. Wherever the president goes in the world, a massive contingent follows, and it's just incredibly difficult to navigate all of that when they're already trying to keep so many people in London that are very high profile, secure, and when seats inside are limited. So Dr. Jill Biden leading the US contingency today.
Yep, politicians, but at the top end of town there, UK Labour leader. We showed Nick Cave as part of the coverage earlier. Our German colleagues next to us were very impressed with Nick Cave, so he's well known throughout Europe as well. But there he is. There's Nick coming in and sitting by himself. He wasn't with the the rest of the Australian contingent. But
and he's already broken the rules, actually, because he was sitting down, then he got up, and now he's sitting down again.
All right, OK. All right, can't
so he's
move
rebelling.
around.
He's rebelling.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is all about the etiquette here at the coronation of King Charles III. We will have more for you after this break.
I can't stop thinking about all the awful things you must have been through.
I wish you were my mum.
The police have found more information about Andrew's case.
This is a bad idea.
Poor kid's just found out everything he knew about his life was probably a lie.
I've never dealt with anything like this before. You need to be careful.
Home and Away, next week on 7 and 7+.
I tell you I love you a million times. Say that I'm sorry if I made you cry. Can never be half the woman even if I try. But I try.
Hey, when you book your travel with Webjet, you can fly away on one airline and return home on another, securing the best value deals to thousands of destinations worldwide. So next time you fly, DIY fly with Webjet.
Create your dream dining room at Harvey Norman. From the clean lines of a contemporary suite to the coastal elegance of the Hamptons, and designs made right here in Australia. With so many options in table size and dining chairs available, you can mix and match and style it your way. Complete your look with entertainment units, buffets, coffee tables and more. With a range like ours, you're sure to find the perfect suite for your space. Visit your nearest store today. Harvey Norman. Everything you need for your home.
Broccolini isn't just a delicious superfood with goodies like folate, vitamin C and antioxidants. It's also incredibly easy to cook. Broccolini, the super simple superfood.
That's Target.
I don't know. I'm just not feeling big.
What, mate? Come on. Here, I tell you what, try this.
Ooh, is it working?
I'm going to say lose the hat.
With IMG, you've got Australia's most recommended bank by your side. Do your thing.
Powerball. Play by your own rules.
You have power. Use it to control your energy and your spending. Track your usage in the palm of your hand. Use less and spend less. You have power to take control.
Welcome back to this 7 News special presentation, the coronation of King Charles III, as we continue to count down to the coronation moment, which is in the hours to come, as the 2,200 guests continue to arrive to Westminster Abbey. Lionel Richie, the singer there, one of many entertainers who'll be in the congregation, and Sadiq Khan off to the right of screen there. The Mayor of London, he's been very busy, Angela Rippon, in the last couple of days promoting London right around the world. This is a big moment for this city, the scene of spectacular royal moments over not just the last couple of years, but hundreds of years.
Yes, indeed. And Sadiq Khan, of course, as you say, the Mayor of London, not particularly liked. He may do a great job promoting the city, but he's not one of the most popular mayors that we've ever had in the city.
He might not be running for re-election next time.
Well, I think he is going to. That's what worries a lot of people. But we also there saw a bit earlier Sir Keir Starmer, of course, who is the leader of the Labour Party, in jubilant mode after we had the local elections over the last couple of days, and the Labour Party trouncing the Tories, the government at the moment, certainly in terms of what's happening in local councils around the country. So he will be a man with a very wide Cheshire cat grin on his face today.
Yeah, I think when Rishi Sunak, the British Prime Minister, turns up, he will be happy to focus on the coronation today and put politics aside. In fact, Rishi Sunak will be one of the few... There is another government minister, Grant Shapps. Rishi Sunak, one of the few MPs who's allowed to bring his partner today, Akshata Murthy. And Rishi Sunak, of course, the first Hindu Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, will be delivering a reading from the Bible, the Christian Bible. Michael Gove, who is another familiar face to many here in the UK as a government minister for a long time in this country. So we're beginning to see these 40 or so MPs who've been selected, many of them by ballot, but obviously cabinet members as well, who are allowed to be inside the Abbey. There'll be more outside the Abbey as well, won't there?
400 of them. In fact, I mean, there are 640 plus MPs in the House of Commons, and they all expected, of course, to get an invitation, not necessarily to be able to bring their wives, because that would have doubled up the numbers, obviously, but they all got very cross, so instead they have been placed in Parliament Square, which they will see the procession as it comes around, and
Giles
Brandreth, there in the centre of the picture, a very close friend, previously of the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, and a very close friend also of Prince Charles, a British broadcaster.
And a very funny man.
A very funny
man. And a former
man.
MP as well, wasn't he?
Well, that's the thing about Giles. Yes, he was a writer and an entertainer, and then he became an MP, and in fact served in the government for a while, and then lost his seat, and now has gone back to broadcasting.
There's the new Deputy Prime Minister of just a week or so, Oliver Dowden, with Tom Tugendhat, who's the Security Minister, behind him. Oliver Dowden stepping in after the resignation of Dominic Raab, who might not get a seat now.
No, I don't.
A couple of weeks ago, the Deputy Prime Minister would have been there, but now he's just a backbencher.
He'll be outside if he's anywhere at all.
Off he goes. Also, I have seen in there Michelle O'Neill, who's the leader of Sinn Féin in Northern Ireland. The fact that the Irish Republicans have turned up to the coronation.
I know, and I think a lot of people were not surprised that they were invited, but certainly surprised that they accepted. That it was not expected. But again, it is their moment of history, and also things, I mean, there are still problems in Northern Ireland, but Northern Ireland is very much a part of the British Isles, and it is really important that their representatives are there to see their king crowned.
Charles and his mother as well, the late Queen, were very keen, particularly in the last decade, to reach a hand out across the Irish sea to the Republic, but you know, the IRA killed his uncle.
They killed his uncle, yes,
Lord
Mountbatten, and there was a lot of bad feeling between them. But in fact, the Queen actually went to Northern Ireland and she shook the hand of the head of Sinn Féin. She took his hand and she shook it, and that was a great moment in terms of reconciliation between those people who had so opposed everything that was happening in Britain. And were able then to form a government. Now, as we say, there are a lot of... there's
the Chancellor Jeremy
Hunt, former Secretary of State for Health, of course, in the country. There he goes.
And I think it was Ben Wallace next to him as well, the Secretary of State for Defence. So the cabinet ministers coming in there, they are.
Exactly.
Ben Wallace, who was a serving member of the Armed Forces prior to becoming a parliamentarian, and Jeremy Hunt, who lives in 11 Downing Street with his family right next door to Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister. So we're getting closer, I guess. We're climbing up the tree of the invite list, aren't we?
Yes, we are. We're getting to, as you say, to the people who are members of the cabinet now.
Adam Hills, Emily Regan off to his side. Emily, who got that fantastic phone call and didn't quite believe her luck. She served in the hospitals here in London during the NHS. And good to see her mum and family. They're gathering in Perth.
Gosh, so proud of her. But again, a recognition of the Commonwealth and of the role that Commonwealth members of the NHS made during the pandemic. And there you've got Anton Deck.
Hand and Deck, yes. The two Australian, sorry, not Australian, they're two British broadcasters. They're on every Saturday night TV show you've ever seen in this country.
Yes.
Tom Tugendhat there as well, Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, and Jeffrey Donaldson, who is on the other side of the aisle to Sinn Féin's Michelle O'Neill. He's the Northern Ireland
now, members of the armed
MP.
services coming in now, the chiefs of staff, the colonels.
Now, some of these will have a role today, won't they?
They will.
Because they will be involved in carrying forward some of the parts of the crown jewels and various parts of the regalia that will be involved in the enthroning.
They will, but also, I mean, you've got, of course, an Australian who is very heavily involved in the regalia. You've got, his name is Simon Abney Hastings. He's the 15th Earl of Loudon, but he actually lives in Victoria, in Australia, Wangaratta, and he will be presenting the royal spurs, which go back to, Richard the Lionheart. And the king who led his troops now what was it called? It was called, he was one. My mind has gone a complete blank here.
One of the battles.
One of the battles, and he was a crusader. He led his troops into North Africa and into the Mediterranean, and he will be presenting those spurs to the king. An Australian connection again with the with this coronation service.
Charles, not so much of a horseman compared to his mother.
No. Well, he played polo, of course, for many years, but I mean, Her Majesty was still riding late into her 90s, and if you remember at her funeral, there was her fell pony on the side of the long walk as the troops were taking the coffin up into Windsor.
Camilla's quite the fan, though, isn't she, of horses?
Very much so. Well, she's a countrywoman. She was brought up in a family that was a military family. She learnt to ride as a very young girl. She belonged to the Pony Club, and she has now inherited the responsibility for what was the Queen's string of racehorses.
Now, you can see in these pictures some of the members of the congregation are wearing those robes. They are members of the House of Lords. They are peers. Sneaking in behind one of them there is Sir Nicholas Soames, or Lord Soames as he is now, the grandson of Winston Churchill. He served as an MP for many years. There's Anton Deck as well, the two TV presenters. But in years gone by, Angela, at previous coronations, those members of the House of Lords would have been all sitting together, and they would have been wearing their own coronets, not crowns, but coronets. Yes. And in the pictures that we see of the Queen's coronation back in 1953, when she is crowned, they all pick up their coronets and place them on their heads as well. There's Joanna Lumley as well, who's been invited along today too. But going back to the Lords, so many of them haven't been invited, so many of them won't be here, and so we will lose some of that, I guess, connection back to the old days, but we're moving forward.
Very much so. I mean, there'll be 40 members of the House of Lords. Will they all be wearing their coronets and their robes? I suspect not, because they were told that they didn't have to. So that many of them will have come in their morning suits, as opposed to, as you say, wearing the coronets, which is a shame in a way, because it does look rather spectacular when you see them en masse in those outfits.
They also lose their lunchbox without the coronets, because there are stories of previous coronations when they'd have to sit there for 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours during the service, and there are plenty of stories of lords and earls and dukes. They would keep a sandwich or a bit of a snack in that coronet to make sure they could sustain themselves for the day.
It was big enough, of course, to hold quite a bit of food under there. And actually, if we go back further in history, if we go back to King George III, they were actually having a picnic in the middle of the ceremony. And you can imagine, can't you? They were so busy eating because, again, it went on for so long. They get to the bit, God save the King? What? Oh, yes, all right, God save the King. Hand me another meat pie, please.
It can be a long service. So you've got to really time eating, drinking, making sure that you can sustain yourself and not have to sit there too uncomfortably if you miss time, all of that. We're going to see these arrivals continue for the next hour or so, or 2 hours, in fact, leading up to the coronation service beginning at 8 p.m. East Coast time. Between now and then, we are going to go to local news services. But in the next couple of minutes, we're going to see more of these arrivals. Katy Perry is going to be performing at the Coronation concert on Sunday night, which is going to be a great night, isn't it?
It is going to be. Some spectacular hats there. And if you can hear hooves behind us, that's because a division of the Mounted Police, 11,000 police, of course, being on duty here today, a division of the Mounted Police just going behind us. And
we're going to
into the Abbey. There we are, Katy Perry there with that fantastic hat.
The music today during the service is going to be very special, isn't it?
It is, and we saw Lord Webber earlier because he has actually written a brand new Coronation March, and as you said earlier, he's hoping that it will be the sort of tune that people will remember after today, a bit like the music that Handel wrote originally for his King's coronation.
Suella Braverman, who
Yes.
is the Home Secretary, Oliver Dowden, the Deputy Prime Minister next to her. As we say, these MPs haven't been able to bring their partners, so they're going to have to buddy up with each other during this service and try
Whether
and
they like each other or not.
Exactly, and plenty of politicians from both sides of the aisle as well. We saw
Yes.
Sir Keir Starmer, the Labor leader, obviously earlier today as well. But most members of the Cabinet and those four great officers of state, the Chancellor, the Home Secretary, the Foreign Secretary, and the Prime Minister, of course, as well. So it is going to be a day that is rich in history. It is a historical moment, Angela. It's going to be one we're going to remember for many years to come. And these pictures that we're going to see in the hours to come are certainly going to be ones that we will remember for many years.
And we still have at least another hour and a half to go before the King even, never mind arrives at Buckingham Palace from his home at Clarence House, but comes out in order to get into that wonderful Australian-built Jubilee coach to make his journey to the Abbey. They are going to be sitting there for at least another hour and a half. There's going to be music that's going to be provided for them to keep them entertained. And they will be enjoying that music in the Abbey. But here, as we've been hearing out on the Mall, there have been bands going up and down, entertaining the thousands of people that we can see there who are lining the Mall at the moment.
Well, the weather is holding off. The clouds are there. We are hoping, of course, that the rain doesn't come in time for the coronation service. But I can tell you, hearing from the military representatives over the course of the week, they are determined to continue, and being military personnel, they are certainly not going to be stopping for rain or anything like that. Those crowds in the stands are waiting what will be one of the most spectacular sights to have ever been seen in what is a city that has seen much go before. We're going to take you now to your local editions of 7 News. We'll see you coming up in an hour.
Tonight, history in the making. King Charles III just hours away from his coronation. We take you live to London, bearing witness to a moment 7 decades in the making.
Victorians gather for high tea and high jinks to mark the event from 17,000 kilometres away.
Plus, a woman's miraculous survival story, 6 days lost in the bush with no water, just why?
Breaking news on the Liberal Party infighting storm as insiders turn on a rogue MP.
The AFL comes down hard on racist fans.
And a Patrick Dangerfield injury sours Geelong's win over Adelaide.
Live from Melbourne,